7.1. What is a sampling distribution? What you will learn. By the end of the section, you should be able to distinguish between a parameter and a statistic. Use the sampling distribution of a statistic to evaluate a claim about a parameter. Distinguish among the distribution of a population, the distribution of a sample, and the sampling distribution of a statistic. Determine whether or not a statistic is an unbiased estimator of a population parameter. Describe the relationship between sample size and the variability of a statistic. What is the average income of American households? Each March, the government's Current Population Survey, CPS, asks detailed questions about income. The random sample of about 60,000 households contacted in March 2012 had a mean total money income of $69,677 in 2011. The median income was lower, of course, at $50,054. That $69,677 describes the sample, but we use it to estimate the mean income of all households. Parameters and statistics. As we begin to use sample data to draw conclusions about a wider population, we must be clear about whether a number describes a sample or a population. For the sample of households contacted by the CPS, the mean income was equals $69,677. The number $69,677 is a statistic because it describes this one CPS sample. The population that the poll wants to draw conclusions about is all 121 million U.S. households. In this case, the parameter of interest is the mean income mu of all these households. We don't know the value of this parameter. Definition: parameter statistic. A parameter is a number that describes some characteristic of the population. A statistic is a number that describes some characteristic of a sample. The value of a parameter is usually not known because we cannot examine the entire population. The value of a statistic can be computed directly from the sample data. We often use a statistic to estimate an unknown parameter. Remember S&P, statistics come from samples, and parameters come from populations. As long as we were doing data analysis, the distinction between population and sample rarely came up. Now, however, it is essential. The notation we use should reflect this distinction. For instance, we write mu, the Greek letter mu, for the population mean and bar x for the sample mean. We use p to represent a population proportion. The sample proportion hat p is used to estimate the unknown parameter p. From ghosts to cold cabins. Parameters and statistics. Problem. Identify the population, the parameter, the sample, and the statistic in each of the following settings. A. The Gallup poll asked a random sample of 515 United States adults whether or not they believe in ghosts. Of the respondents, 160 said yes. B. During the winter months, the temperatures outside the Starnes cabin in Colorado can stay well below freezing, 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius, for weeks at a time. To prevent the pipes from freezing, Mrs. Starnes sets the thermostat at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. She wants to know how low the temperature actually gets in the cabin. A digital thermometer records the indoor temperature at 20 randomly chosen times during a given day. The minimum reading is 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Solution. A. The population is all United States adults, and the parameter of interest is P, the proportion of all United States adults who believe in ghosts. The sample is the 515 people who were interviewed in this Gallup poll. The statistic is the proportion of the sample who said they believe in ghosts, which equals 160 divided by 515, or approximately 0.31. The population is all times during the day in question, and the parameter of interest is the true minimum temperature in the cabin that day. The sample consists of the 20 temperature readings taken at randomly selected times. The statistic is the sample minimum, 38 degrees Fahrenheit. For practice, try the following exercise. Check your understanding. Each boldface number in questions 1 and 2 is the value of either a parameter or a statistic. In each case, state which it is and use appropriate notation to describe the number. 1. On Tuesday, the bottles of Arizona iced tea filled in a plant were supposed to contain an average of 20 ounces of iced tea. Quality control inspectors sampled 50 bottles at random from the day's production. These bottles contained an average of 19.6 ounces of iced tea. 2. On a New York to Denver flight, 8% of the 125 passengers were selected for random security screening before boarding. According to the Transportation Security Administration, 10% of passengers at this airport are chosen for random screening.